This week, a friend of Prince William's told the Daily Beast that Prince Harry should apologize for doing cocaine as a young man on him and Meghan Markle's trip to Colombia. The friend said Harry admitted to doing coke in his book. His trip to Colombia should include an admission that the country has been destroyed by narco-terrorists servicing wealthy drug users in the West, and he should stand up and apologize for his own participation in that disgusting trade. That would be a helpful intervention. The Daily Beast points out that drug-related crime has made the South American country one of the most dangerous places on earth to live. It has one of the highest murder rates in the world, which completely explains why a man that is hyper-obsessed with the safety of himself and his wife would hop on a plane for a friendly visit. Harry and Meghan's trip to Colombia is expected to begin on Thursday. Media friends, I am literally begging you to stop calling these hillbilly holidays royal tours. These two quit their royal responsibilities due to a lack of qualifications and an inability to handle the demands of the position. In a statement announcing the visit, the government said that Harry and Meghan were visiting in recognition of their global leadership in fostering a safer online environment. While the quote from Prince William's anonymous friend to the Daily Beast might come off as a little petty, I do find it ironic that someone who openly endorses illegal drug use is considered an authority on safety online for children. Not only in Spare, but in interviews promoting the book, Prince Harry discussed his recreational use of magic mushrooms, marijuana, which was illegal for a significant portion of his life, still illegal in Britain, as well as psychedelics as a form of therapy. Adolescent drug use remains a frightening health concern in the United States. According to drugabusestatistics.org, 50% of teenagers have misused a drug at least once, and drug use went up by 61% among eighth graders between 2016 and 2020. Teenagers are turning to the dark web in droves to purchase illegal drugs or medications without a prescription. Harry and Meghan will continue to be rejected as thought leaders because they jump on any and every trendy bandwagon that comes society's way. There have clearly been no strategy sessions where the pair are laser focused on campaigns or causes they truly are passionate about. And every single interview that they do, every piece of content, action they've done over the past year, they should have been moving towards a specific goal, moving towards a specific direction to strengthen their credibility in that space. That's not what they've done. It reminds me of that Charlie Day meme from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They say one thing and do another, and it completely contradicts the previous messaging. And far more damaging, gives off the rules for thee, but not for me vibes. Prince Harry's Travelist company says their goal is for travelers to make more informed travel choices that reduce their trip's environmental impact. Yet Prince Harry and Meghan Markle take private jet after private jet. Worse than that, last October, they flew a private jet to a Caribbean island just days after attending a conference on the impacts of climate change in New York. Talking about being rudderless, now the Telegraph is reporting that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are ignorantly being used as political pawns by the left-wing government there, which has been haunted by corruption scandals. And I think when you are rudderless, it's easier to fall victim to something like this. Corruption has been a significant issue in Colombia, affecting various levels of government. In one case, their president's son was arrested as part of a high-profile money laundering investigation into funds he allegedly collected from convicted drug traffickers. And one prominent local lawyer told the Mail on Sunday, I'm sure Meghan and Harry mean well, but everyone here is talking about how obviously they are being manipulated. The Telegraph points out that Harry and Meghan's trip to this crime-ridden country was announced just days after the Duke said it was too dangerous to bring his wife to your neck of the woods. And the UK government, as I know you're well aware of, their travel advice warns that terrorists are very likely to try and carry out attacks in Colombia. There is a risk of kidnapping by armed groups, and the country is seriously afflicted by conflict and cocaine turf wars. Even the vice president that invited them has already had to beef up her own security following several assassination attempts, including a bomb threat, a bomb that was actually left near her home. I guess my question to you would be, Harry, what the hell are you thinking?
Well, this is the problem. And I think we spend quite a lot of time thinking those very same thoughts on a number of issues. So, look, they went to Nigeria, which I suppose on the face of it, you would say, I don't know the full extent of what their government is like and corruption issues, but on the face of it, it wouldn't be the most obvious one to go to. But he was saying it was behind the Invictus Games. Yes, they want to go and draw attention to a few good causes. But yes, and they're going to places that are deemed, yes, Colombia does have these areas where they say just do not go to, but where they're going, they will be primarily safe. But you're right to think that this is a good look. Now, we've got problems in this country, and no one's denying that we've been having riots on the streets. It's all been pretty unspeakable.
We just had an assassination attempt too. Like, we had it over here too. So I get it. Yeah.
We've got issues. No one's denying that. But in terms of how he would be in this country, I think he'd be pretty safe. And so this is why we don't understand what is going on here. And she will want to be front center of that and be the one always being photographed. And probably Harry will be walking one step behind, because it feels like this is more Meghan's show with Harry just bringing the title. Now, that might sound a bit damning, but that's the way it feels to me.
We love to hear it, Rupert. All right. I spoke to the Express last week, and I hate to quote myself, but it's such an I told you so moment that I wanted to share it. They asked me what Harry and Meghan expected to gain from this experience. And I said that Harry and Meghan have become the butt of the joke in the United States, whether a comedian is taking a swipe at Prince Harry at an award show, or South Park is destroying the couple for their continued PR stunts. These two have to leave the country to prove that someone out there takes them seriously. And to my point, I open up the Daily Mail today and see the headline, Joe Rogan brutally mocks Prince Harry in new Netflix stand-up show. As you know, Joe Rogan, Spotify's official golden boy, Prince Harry, famously got the boot from the podcast network for not fulfilling contractual obligations. Joe poked fun at Harry for his recreational drug use and basically calls him an idiot, asking what qualifies Prince Harry to be the deciding factor on misinformation. To me, it's obvious that Harry and Meghan are desperate to be taken seriously, and they realize that they have to turn their brand around. They will travel no matter what the security concerns are to any country willing to give them a platform, because those glossy photos in People magazine just might change someone's mind about them. Will this work? Is this the right strategy? Because it seems like this is something they want to continue to do between Nigeria, between Colombia. It looks like they're really gunning for this.
No, and this is one of the reasons they felt that, the royal visits they did, they felt that they, couldn't do what they wanted to do, and felt, wasn't there even a suggestion, you don't get paid to do this. Now, I don't know whether they're being paid to go there, and how does it work with the increased security? Are they being paid to go there? Someone is probably footing the bill for this to make sure that they're in the very best places. Who is paying for it all? If it was a royal visit, yes, that comes with, there's a diplomatic element to that. It's Britain promoting itself using the royal family as a vehicle. Yes, they may be promoting a few charitable causes, but it's actually designed to promote brand Sussex.
You mentioned being carefree and happy and all these sorts of things, and this, of course, this Colombia visit. Why? We still don't know. But interesting piece in the Telegraph this week where some people are discussing, residents in Colombia are saying, now, they've been invited by the left-wing government, and the left-wing government has been dogged by corruption scandals since elected the last couple of years in the last couple of years. So a lot of commentators are saying, well, hang on, this is the perfect cover-up. Get the Duke and Duchess over to Colombia, big glamorous visit, all of the photographs and all the glossiness that you talk about. This is the perfect way to gloss over all of the corruption and all of the scandals that this government has been involved in. So are Harry and Meghan actually being used? They think they're the ones in control with this visit, but in actual fact, they're being used by the left-wing Colombian government.
I don't think that they're being used. I think that it's mutually beneficial. Harry and Meghan get the pictures. I mean, Harry and Meghan are having to leave not only my country, but your country to be seen as leaders. Otherwise, they're loathed or they're jokes. So what they get out of the Colombia trip, People magazine is going to print glowing stories of them, glossy pictures of Meghan in very expensive, beautiful outfits. And they're going to be standing there with other world leaders, which they're hoping that you are who you associate with, and people will assume that they're in the same kind of lane that some of these world leaders are. And Colombia gets a distraction from the corruption happening in the government. I think it's mutually beneficial. Maybe you are who you associate with and they're all a little corrupt. Enjoy each other.
Yeah, have fun. But I think that's where the role of journalists is really important, actually. The journalists don't get seduced by all of this, the glossy pictures and all of these things, and that they still discuss, hey, this isn't the perfect country. I mean, Colombia is still described by the US government as level 3 or an orange risk when it comes to terror and safety. Reconsider travel due to crime and terrorism is what the US government says. The UK government says terrorists are very likely to carry out attacks in Colombia. There's a risk of kidnapping by armed groups, and the country is seriously afflicted by conflict and cocaine turf wars. And so, again, I mean, I know we've made this point, but such a bizarre place to visit when you are going on about your own security. I mean, the UK and the US governments are saying to people, this is a place you've got to be very, very careful. Meghan and Harry suddenly not worried about those concerns. Very odd.
Yeah, I just think that they're going where they're invited, and
just anywhere.
They're not being invited to places that have their what together.
Anywhere. Send them a message, Kinsey. Maybe they'll come to one of ours. I don't think we're on their Christmas card list somehow.
No, I don't want to deal with them anyway.
We're in the Thomas Markle file, most definitely.
Yeah. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's trip to Colombia has inspired royal author Anna Pasternak to draw a comparison to the Duke and Duchess of Windsor. It was less than 1 year after the abdication crisis when Wallis and Edward took an ill-advised trip to Germany. Speaking to the Telegraph, Pasternak explained, they accepted the invitation because Edward felt so hurt and angered by the way Wallis had been rejected by the royal family, and he desperately wanted her to experience the pomp and ceremony of a royal tour. She says he wanted Wallis to be addressed as HRH and for people to curtsy to her. I'm not suggesting that Harry wants the pomp and ceremony of a royal tour, but there is a feeling that he'd like to elevate Meghan to the status accorded to her. The story of the Duke and Duchess of Windsor, the former King Edward VIII and Wallis Simpson, is one of the most captivating royal sagas of the 20th century. The couple's controversial relationship led to a constitutional crisis in the United Kingdom, culminating in Edward's abdication in 1936. Just a year later, in 1937, the newly minted Duke and Duchess of Windsor embarked on a journey to Germany, sparking a storm of controversy and intrigue. This trip, set against the backdrop of rising tensions in Europe in the shadow of Nazi Germany, remains a deeply controversial chapter in royal history. To understand the significance of the Duke and Duchess's trip to Germany, it is essential to revisit the events leading up to Edward's abdication. Edward ascended to the throne in January of 1936, following the death of his father, King George V. From the outset, Edward's reign was marked by controversy, largely due to his relationship with Wallis Simpson, an American socialite and divorcee. Wallis Simpson had already been divorced once and was in the process of divorcing her second husband when the UK media finally broke the story that had already set the United States on fire. Wallis was romantically involved with Edward, King of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and of the British Dominions and Emperor of India. The relationship was seen as scandalous by many in British society, particularly the establishment and the Church of England, which disapproved of divorce. As the head of the church, Edward was expected to uphold its teachings, making his eagerness to marry Wallis a constitutional crisis. The British government, led by Prime Minister Stanley Baldwin, made it clear that Edward could not marry Wallis and remain king. Faced with the impossible choice between the throne and the woman he loved, Edward chose to abdicate. Actually, that's a little dramatic. I don't know if he ever really wanted to be king. Anyway, on December 11th, 1936, he became the first British monarch to voluntarily relinquish the crown, passing the throne onto his younger brother, who became King George VI. In his abdication speech, Edward famously declared, "I have found it impossible to carry the heavy burden of responsibility and to discharge my duties as king as I would wish to do without the help and support of the woman I love." Following the abdication, Edward was given the title Duke of Windsor, and the couple married in June of 1937. The abdication had significant political and personal ramifications, leaving the Duke and Duchess largely isolated from the British royal family. Seeking purpose and recognition, the couple embarked on a series of trips abroad, including the infamous visit to Germany. In October 1937, just a few months after their marriage, the Duke and Duchess of Windsor traveled to Germany. The trip was ostensibly a private visit, but it quickly became a matter of international interest and concern. Germany, under the leadership of Adolf Hitler, was in the midst of its aggressive expansionist policies and the persecution of Jews and other minorities. The Nazi regime was becoming increasingly powerful, and Europe was on the brink of war. The Duke and Duchess's decision to visit Germany at such a time raised eyebrows and led to speculation about their political sympathies. Edward had previously expressed admiration for some aspects of Hitler's regime, particularly its strong stance against communism. But the extent of his support for the Nazis has been a matter of historical debate. Royal author Andrew Morton, who scored the incredible scoop in 1992 with Diana, Her True Story, wrote a fascinating book on this specific topic called 17 Carnations, the Windsors, the Nazis, and the cover-up. Among their circle was a German foreign minister who took such a liking to Wallis that he ordered daily bouquets of 17 carnations to be delivered to her door, rumored to signify the number of times they had slept together. During the Windsors' visit, the Duke and Duchess met with several high-ranking Nazi officials, including Hitler. One of the most controversial aspects of the trip was the warm reception that the Duke and Duchess received from the Nazi leadership. Photographs of the couple with Hitler and other leaders were widely circulated, causing a sensation in the press. Hitler reportedly admired Edward and saw him as a potential ally, or at least a figure who could influence British policy in favor of Germany. There were even rumors that the Nazis considered reinstalling Edward as king in the event of a German invasion of Britain. We'll revisit that in a moment. The visit was seen by many as a diplomatic disaster and a public relations nightmare for the British government at a time when tensions between Britain and Germany were escalating. The sight of a former British king and his wife associating with the leaders of the Nazi regime was deeply troubling. It fueled suspicions that Edward harbored pro-German or even pro-Nazi sympathies, a perception that would haunt him for the rest of his life. On your latest Sun program, Royal Exclusive, the headline is "What's Next, North Korea?" which is hilarious, but could it get that bad? I mean, could it right now, the way things are looking, I don't know, are we going to China next? Because we got to go see where the American Riviera orchard mats are made?
Well, I mean, they say Nigeria, Colombia. Is it a case that anybody who invites them, they accept? You know, we don't know who else has invited them, but anyone, as I say, they're two celebrities or two members of the non-working royals who can just be invited to add a little bit of stardust to a politician or a country anywhere in the world, and it appears that they will accept these trips. So. It's tongue in cheek with North Korea, invite them. Of course, North Korea wouldn't invite them, but it's a thorny issue. Anyone can just ask them. I mean, the invites that come to King and Queen and Kate and William, are carefully sifted through, and the government, the British government decides them. The British government isn't deciding where, or the American government isn't deciding where Harry and Meghan go in. They are deciding, or Archwell are deciding, and I worry about the future. I've said this to you last time we were on, I worry about diplomatic incidents that they can find themselves in. And I don't want to sit there criticising Colombia, because I think that's just really quite clumsy, because it's not a European or North American country or whatever like that. But a lot of the current politicians have been, that they are meeting, have been faced certain accusations, Vice President herself, the President himself. And so a lot of these people that they are hanging out with in Colombia have got certain kind of scandals hanging over their head in Colombia, and I do worry going forward what kind of individuals they will end up being asked to kind of hang around with, and it worries me, because it'd be very embarrassing for them and very embarrassing for Britain if they have some kind of major diplomatic incident that would be unlikely to happen if they were working royals.
Yeah, the last thing that the royal family wanted when there was this exit was the idea of pay-for-play royals, and sometimes it kind of looks like they're veering into that territory. You've covered a lot of Sussex tour incidents on Royal Exclusive, including firsthand accounts of Harry and Meghan's bad behavior on the road. Can you walk me through this one incident you covered? What really happened with Meghan Markle at the Fiji market stop during her royal tour with Prince Harry in 2018? A friend covering the tour said that she saw firsthand a confrontation, then an aide crying in her car, and you kind of broke this story wide open all over again a few months ago with one of your guests, talking about how there weren't security concerns. So we're already seeing security concerns being used again and are at the beginning of 2018, which sets the tone over here for 2024. Can you recall what that story was?
Yeah, I mean, the Fiji market is infamous amongst royal reporters. Unfortunately, I wasn't there. It was shortly before my time, but people who were there described many different stories. I think that the situation that came out, or the line that came out from the Sussexes at the time, was that there was a security issue and they had to get her out, and that the security guard, there's a picture of Meghan's close protection officer taking her out of the market. There are other claims from reporters who were there that said that she was unhappy with I think it was a certain United Nations arm of United Nations, or a charity connected to United Nations, that she had fallen out with, that was at this Fiji market, that she didn't want to see. Now look, these trips are stressful. All right, they're hard working. I think they were there for 2 weeks in Australia. That's how I wasn't there, but I've been on trips that last this long, and they are really tough. Okay, but they're really difficult. So I understand that people, members of the royal family, have a lot of stress. But the security officer that worked for Meghan, she left shortly after that. Some of the team around Meghan and Harry were giving different stories about what actually happened. Reporters on the ground do say that she stormed out. But you can compare it to William and Catherine. I was in the Caribbean, William and Catherine, 2 or 3 years ago, and they got a lot of abuse there from everyone online and from people in the Caribbean. I was there at the final event. We had flown to 2 or 3 other islands away from Bahamas. Everyone was exhausted. There was a ton of press there because of all the problems that had happened with the tour. And William and Catherine had cameras shoved in their face. It was really, really busy. And their poise and their professionalism and the way that they went about that final engagement, I was so impressed. And I tell people whenever they ask, that I just wanted to go home. Everyone was exhausted, but they carried on. They are difficult to do these tours. And I think with that incident in the Fiji market, from what I understand from reporters who were there, they suggest that Meghan just had enough and wanted to walk out when it was less about security.
It's interesting, though, that we are still hearing the term security issue.